everyone, it's been over 2 minutes and I haven't been raped yet. I'm starting to think that maybe feminists are liars. Hi, I'm Diana Davison. I'm a social critic, and this week I want to talk about dissident voices and the importance of freedom of speech. So I'm going to be discussing an article published on Spiked Online. So in the first issue of Spiked Review, an online magazine published by Spiked Online, links below, December 2015, they did an interview and article about Camille Paglia called Feminist Trouble. Now, Camille Paglia is a cultural critic and academic who burst on the scene in the 1990s with the publication of her book Sexual Personae. Paglia says, feminism demands the intrusion and protection of paternalistic authority figures to project a hypothetical utopia that will be magically free from offense and hurt. Now, this is a really powerful statement. So, what you're talking about are utopian visions controlling social narrative and demanding things from society. Now, that's really dangerous because utopias can't exist. She's also referencing that feminists, while claiming to be strong women, are demanding a paternalistic, protective society that is built around their needs. So I'll be using clips from the article published on Spiked, as well as footage from an interview done in March by Reason TV.
Gloria Steinem, I guess, most famously said that you were an anti-feminist, and that when you denied that, that would be like she said a Nazi saying they're not anti-Semitic. You're mixing it up.
How can anyone have any dialogue with people who have such a, what is that? That is the Nazi and Stalinist view of art, okay, where art is subordinate to a prefab political agenda, okay?
Now, as you can see, the so-called dialogue around these issues are a little bit hyperbolic. And one of the things about Paglia is that she's exciting, she is a dynamic personality, but at the same time she encounters this little problem.
Your critiques of pop culture come from a very learned perspective. However, it's mixed in with this fast-talking delivery. I think James Wolcott said in Vanity Fair, listening to you talk at length is like having Woody Woodpecker repair your roof.
Perfect.
Okay?
Perfect. That was wonderful.
And I love that she embraces her critics, because a lot of the battle going on with feminism and people who challenge them comes down to personality wars, and Paglia was deeply enmeshed in this. So her battles with Gloria Steinem and with Andrea Dworkin, a lot of it comes down to the kind of attacks, personal attacks, that only women can engage in with other women. The anti-porn crusader Andrea Dworkin was a rabid fanatic, a self-destructive woman so consumed by her hatred of men that she tottered on the edge of psychosis. Gloria Steinem has always been a networking careerist, packaging herself as a saintly, self-sacrificing humanitarian while privately schmoozing with the rich and famous and the media elite. She told the world a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, even while she was never without a man on the chic Manhattan party scene. Now, aside from the interpersonal squabbles, it comes down to agenda.
Rita Mae Brown, who said to me, you know, the difference between you and me, Camille, is that you want to save the universities and I want to burn them down. Okay, this is what, okay, so, all right. I mean, how can you have dialogue with these people?
Now, Paglia goes on to identify one of the problems facing current universities and the students who are seeking education is the corruption of what constitutes knowledge at universities.
This is our problem now, okay, is this monomania, the identity politics of the 1970s. Yeah. So people see everything through the lens of race or gender or social class. This is a madness.
Rape culture is a ridiculous term, mere gassy propaganda, too rankly bloated to critique. Anyone who sees sex so simplistically has very little sense of world history, anthropology, or basic psychology. I feel very sorry for women who have been seduced by this hyper-politicized, victim-centered rhetoric, because in clinging to such superficial, inflammatory phrases, they have renounced their own power and agency. Now, in terms of agency, I think Paglia is a really great role model because all of the things people make fun of her for, she owns.
Well, you said that you couldn't get laid for 10 years.
This is up to last year. I had a 10-year drought. I was world famous. I couldn't get a date, okay? Men, women, all right?
You don't think it had anything to do with the fact that you talk too fast?
I always knew that. I knew that was the reason.
So with this really dynamic presentation and everything, what you have to ask yourself is not whether you like Gloria Steinem or Andrea Dworkin or Camille Paglia better. What you have to ask is, who is more intellectually honest?
The absolute collapse, okay, of any kind of intellectual discourse in the U.S. is the result of these colleges, okay, which should have been the best, okay, and have produced the finest minds, instead of having retracted into caretaking. The whole thing is about approved social positions and in a kind of misty love of humanity, okay, without any direct knowledge, okay, of history or economics or anthropology.
Each generation must create its own reality and find its own identity. If today's young women want to be passive wards of the state, then that is their self-stultifying choice. One cannot impose a dynamic, expansive, metaphysical vision of existence on timid minds who crave the miniature-like porcelain bibelots of frogs and sparrows. My advice, as in everything, is to read widely and think for yourself. We need more dissent and less dogma. Now, I think there's a generational challenge going on here, and I think that Paglia is coming from a point of true concern, where she wants to see not just women, but people empowered. And her issues are not just with feminism, it's with the corruption of the educational system as well.
This is a symptom of decadence. The people today have what they practice, this new historicism. It's such a, I call it this yuppie buffet style, where you take a little here, a little this, you juxtapose them, you make cutesy remarks, and that's it. Okay? There's no deep learning any longer. It's hopeless.
Yeah.
It's absolutely hopeless. The humanities destroyed themselves, okay, with that veering toward postmodernism and post-structuralism. It's over. Okay, they've been completely marginalized.
Now, in the Spiked article, she talks about challenges for the next generation. And at the end of this interview, she says a few things that I'm going to challenge her on in terms of the direction of the future of education.
Can you say something, what are you excited about or optimistic about in this twilight of the American century?
What am I optimistic about?
Is there any reason for us to, to be getting up other than to fight an existential battle against darkness?
Now, as a social critic, you'll quite often encounter this desire from the public just to talk about positive things. It's a bit of a trap, but there are other traps to be wary of as well.
I'm an educator, okay, so I want the reform of education, okay. Directing people them toward college makes absolutely no sense considering the utter dilution of the current college curriculum. I don't see what the point of that is, unless someone already is showing talent or interest in going into law or medicine or something like that.
So in the end of the Reason TV interview, Paglia suggests that people should give up on education. They just shouldn't bother going there. Now, I want to talk about another very recent article that has a much better suggestion. All is not lost. Here's a little bit of optimism for Reason TV. Now, on December 7th, 2015, Stanley Kurtz wrote an article, a recommendation, for National Review. I'll put the link below. It's called A Plan to Restore Free Speech on Campus. He says, the slowly metastasizing assault on free speech that has played out on American college campuses since the 1960s has reached a crisis point. What's needed is a concrete plan to restore liberty of thought and discussion to the American Academy. A plan capable of focusing the support of sympathetic students, faculty, parents, alumni, administrators, trustees, and citizens, and their elected representatives. I offer here the outlines of such a program. So I'm not going to cover all of the 5 points in his recommendations. I hope that everybody reads his article below, and I think it would be an entire video on its own just to cover that. These are incredibly well thought out recommendations from Stanley Kurtz, who is a Harvard graduate and senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. So, while Camille Paglia has offered some great criticism of feminism, and she's got interesting personal experiences with a lot of the leaders and movers and shakers who have not just corrupted the gender relations, but corrupted the academic centers. I think that what we need to see is a dialogue opening up without these accusations of being a Nazi or like all of this hyperbole that prevents open, honest discussion. And you'll see in the news lately a lot of discussion about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and the importance of maintaining that. That's what Kurtz deals with in his article, and I think that focusing on the restoration and not just bemoaning the loss of such things, focusing on actual solutions is going to be the way forward. So one of the other social justice, feminist, things that's been introduced blocking dialogue is identity politics. And I'm going to finish up with bits from a debate where Frank Furedi, another writer for Spiked Online, made some very interesting comments about generations.
The very idea of generation is a banal, unsustainable concept. The idea that a biological accident, the fact that you happen to be sharing the same calendar, binds you together into common experience, is inane. I mean, everybody will know that I, as a baby boomer, growing up in one part of the world, have got nothing in common with a Yorkshire miner or a steelworker from Sheffield or somebody growing in Glasgow. The idea that we have something in common, it doesn't make any sense at all. And we know that at the end of the day, of all the social categories that exist, that of generation is the least significant.
Now, one of the things that happens in society and should be promoted in society is that younger generations should come along as bold new thinkers, and they should help the world move forward, be progressive, and help to create new eras. Every era will eventually come to an end, and I think, as Paglia thinks as well, and has stated elsewhere, that we are at the end of a generation. So instead of trying to control this, we need to actually free up the younger generation to express and to lead the way into the next era.
The fact that so many of these elderly journalists and elderly commentators are inciting young people tells me that something interesting is going on. And let me tell you what this is. Historically, generational conflict and tension is a really good thing. I think young people, unless they rebel, are never truly young. If young people become old before their age and roll over and imitate their parents, you know that something is really wrong. And we know, for example, that ever since the ancient Greece, the younger generations were regarded as the future. Their rebellion was intimated that they were going to change the world into a world that would be better than ever before. And in that tension that grew up in Sparta and Athens, many of the elder generations, many of the older men, were actually sort of respected the fact that here were these heroic young people rebelling and trying to make their own way. And that was a creative dynamic. There's a lot of tension there. And if you read literature, sons and fathers are a continuous tension that comes up time and time again. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's very, very healthy. It's a very positive way that the history kind of moves on and develops. Unfortunately, there's a difference between young people rebelling because they want to seize the world, they want to alter it in their image, they want to create something new. There's a difference between that and the I'm renting generation argument. Look at me, I'm just renting. Look at me, I got this bedsit that I'm renting in. And what she's really saying is, give me a bedroom, right? Give me a bedroom, give us a bedroom. Not a very heroic imagination there. She's not really saying anything particularly kind of profound. If you look at the slogans in the so-called generational struggle today, they are, bail us out.
Now, I normally end my videos with the rape joke of the week to mock rape culture as a concept. But I really actually see a culture being raped right now, and that's a serious matter. So this week I'm going to end with a plea to the younger generation. I am hoping that you see that a new era is beginning. We're at the end of one, so you have a choice. You're either going to be part of the end of an era, and that is this politically correct nightmare that you're being drawn into right now by faculty members at university and people who want to control the direction of the future, or you're going to be part of the future. Be part of the end or be part of the future. If you want to be part of the future, that means finding your rebellious voice, being unafraid to challenge authority, and helping us break free from this silencing of expression and freedom of speech. So, it's your choice. You are the future.